What's up, party people? It's Survivor Teek here, back again for week number 3. And hashtag beard crew, I know that you're commenting on my beard. I've gotten requests that I should grow my beard out like Matt Bischoff. If you remember him from Survivor Karamoan, he was deeply under-edited. I think he had an alliance with Corinne, and he was one of the fans on that season. But I don't know if I can pull that off. Get the braid going? Who knows? But we'll see how that happens. And for you Survivor fans out there, check out Squid Game. If you watch episode 3, there's a little bit of Survivor throwbacks in there where they're trying to develop some alliances, and so it's pretty fun to see how that all shakes out. There's some backstabs on the alliances, and so it feels like a season of Survivor, just very different, and people actually die. So for those of us who enjoy the PG entertainment, let's chat about Survivor. So week number 3, it was let's just say that it's pretty twist heavy, pretty advantage heavy, and I've seen a lot of feedback online where people are saying bring it back to basics, like let's see some camp life, and let's chat about some of the camp life that we did see. And so we saw a little bit from the Blue Tribe from Luvu, and the story in that tribe still seems to revolve around Nasir, and we saw Sydney chat a little bit about, oh, you know what, last night Nasir was throwing Danny's name under the bus, and then so Sydney's chatting with Danny. Nasir's there just chilling in the background, and he's just like, Sydney's a double agent, I don't trust her. But it was actually pretty interesting if you kind of caught on, because Sydney at one point, when she was trying to find this beware advantage, and we'll get into these beware advantages, number 1, number 2, number 3, all of them, soon, but when Sydney was looking for that, she was like, I can't let Heather or Nasir find it. What's the beef with Heather? And so if you haven't been following the secret scene videos, Heather actually had this, I think this was out during week 2. Heather had this dream where she imagined that Sydney voted her out, and then so therefore she wants to go after Sydney first. And she talked about this, and people on the tribe think she's a bit of a crazy kook. Unfortunately, we haven't seen much from Heather. I hope we do see more from her because she seems incredibly entertaining. And so Sydney kind of was like, I don't understand why this woman's coming after me. And then Heather in the confessional is like, y'all know that dream? I made it up. So she's going after Sydney. Nasir's going after Sydney now because Nasir's like, she's a friggin' double agent. We saw in a preview Erica's going after her. I don't know what's going to happen with the sassy law student. But from what it does sound like, at least from Sydney's perspective, there's a tight alliance of 4, and this is to be expected when the younger people in the tribe, especially the tribe of 6, bond. We've seen this again and again through Survivor, this age gap. So it does look like Danny, Deshawn, Erica, and Sydney are presumably the tight 4, and that makes sense for now. We haven't really seen too much else from the Blue Tribe dynamics. The preview does show that they are planning to potentially throw a challenge. We see Danny having a confessional. We see Erica talking about how Sydney's going off the deep end. So I feel like we're going to see some more interest from these Luvu players, and I want to see more interest because I think some of these could be the top contenders of this season. But yeah, let's see what happens. Like I said before, throwing a challenge is absolute suicide this season. You can't even effectively pick a target because of the shot in the dark, because of all these beware advantages, extra votes, vote steals, there's idols, there's a lot going on this season. And you'd be silly to think that you can accurately pull something like that off. And even just the concept of throwing a challenge, like say for example, Blue feels that betrayed by Nasir for just being a little bit sketchy. Like, man's still on your team, man's still, bleeding blue. He doesn't have any connections with Xander or JD or Shan or anybody else. So he's still probably going to be loyal to you moving forwards. And so it's perplexing that they would even think about throwing a challenge unless there's a swap, unless there's somebody you specifically want to save. Blue can pretty much try to steamroll this season. The other thing that Blue might be thinking moving forwards is, look, they're down in numbers. If you look at it, it's 6 Blue, 8 others. And so the natural thing, if you're either the green or the yellow tribes, come some type of swap situation, come some type of merge situation, is we got to take out the Blues. And so all of a sudden, although Blue has been in this powerful position, because of the 3-tribe dynamic, they might find themselves falling behind. And so they might be thinking, we need to start to weaken ourselves a little bit. If we got dead weight, if they think Heather and Nasir are their dead weight, let's jettison them and let's try to move forwards and reintegrate ourselves and maybe be part of that majority alliance. It could be what they're thinking. I don't know. We'll wait to see next episode, but I think we're starting to see some strategic chops from Blue. The Yellow Tribe, for as much as we saw Xander and Evie, they were basically quiet this episode. we started off with Liana, and she was just chatting about, I'm ready to make a big move. I'm ready to get myself in there. I suppose she was feeling a little bit distraught about the decision where she ended up moving away from Tiffany and ended up voting, sorry, moved away from Xander and sided with Tiffany to vote out Vochi. And maybe she felt like voting out Xander was the big move. I don't know. At the end of the day, like I said before, her and Evie could have still voted out Xander. Like, those two still had the power, and Tiffany would have no other choice but to bow down. But maybe they would have lost, trust in the alliance or whatever. So I did find how it all played out very interesting, because here's Liana talking about it. When you're a tribe of four, there's not really much space for a big move. If you lose, they're probably going to vote out Xander. Or you only really saw the three girls kind of bond together. We saw Tiffany end up finding that beware advantage, and Liana said, this is my $1 million mistake. And so Tiffany ended up finding it, and I actually really liked what Tiffany said. I'll jump into this more in my Edgic video, but she was like, I would not want to share these advantages because, but these two were just here, so I had to show it. And so that was probably the most prescient thing said this entire episode, because people are oversharing advantages like insanity. Like, keep them secret. Don't have them in your pants. Like, keep them secret. It's only an advantage if it's secret. If people know about it, it's a target. And we'll chat about Brad soon, but yeah, that was kind of what went down with Tiffany. I think they still trust her. We're getting a lot more from Yellow. But that's kind of where it is. It's probably status quo. Xander's still on the ropes, and we'll see how that progresses. And Liana might be able to make a move. Maybe she'll bottom with Xander and try to take out Evie or Tiffany. That would be interesting to see if she ends up switching sides, especially if that idol becomes activated next episode and Blue finds it. So a lot of this episode was based on the Green Tribe. Ua, and that was a tribe that we got the most from in terms of the backstory, and then obviously we'll get to the challenge, but they ended up losing it. But let's just chat about pre-challenge first. So the Green Tribe is essentially very fluid alliances. You start to get a sense of Brad. He's Mr. Hardworking. Shan's kind of in the middle. JD seemed to be kind of with Brad and Jeannie. We didn't really get a sense of how that trust splintered, but it seemed like JD started to move more to Ricard and Shan. We saw the past couple episodes, Ricard and Shan trying to cultivate that relationship with JD and trying to foment a little bit of mistrust with Brad. So that may have been working in the background. But overall, those five all seem kind of aligned with everybody else. It doesn't seem like there's a clear outcast so far. And so we end up seeing Brad find this beware advantage, and he's going to go on a boat. We got a really interesting scene trying to see all three of them. So it was Sydney, Brad, and Tiffany who ended up getting this beware advantage. And so the three of them went into, essentially, it was one of the same summit type situations where you can either risk or reward. In this case, it's TARP, or it's a steal a vote. And the steal a vote, especially when the numbers are this low, 4 people, 5 people in a tribe, that steal a vote is massive. For example, if you're thinking in Brad's mind, if it's just Brad and Jeannie, all you have to do is steal a vote from somebody else, and you have the majority in 5. And that's probably what he was thinking. So they all go out there, and first off, it was kind of interesting to kind of see how they all kind of tried to scurry out. And in Brad's post-exit interviews, he said that he had this whole situation planned out. He also told Shan beforehand, Shan apparently being one of his closest allies. And so Shan was a cover, presumably Jeannie was a cover. He had this whole kind of like Rose and Oars set up so people would think that he's still sleeping. But he said that the other two were actually very nervous, and that's why they made very quick decisions. And so in this situation, I think probably Brad played it the best. You only have 2 choices. You either go out there and say, I'm going to steal a vote no matter what. So, like, maybe we can kind of build something moving forward. So I got a little bit of that from Sydney. Sydney said, yeah, I want Brad to get it. Because Sydney probably thought that she can work with Brad down the line. Somehow in those brief moments, she felt some trust with him. She didn't trust Tiffany. Tiffany didn't trust Sydney. That's a whole different situation. But you should kind of go out there and say, I'm going to steal the vote. You see this in other type of prisoner dilemma type games and different strategies, because then the other person is kind of forced to say, okay, you know what? I don't want both of us to lose it, so I'm going to have to take the pass. So it's advantageous to be very aggressive. Or you go out there and say, look, we should all take the target. Let's all take the tarp. I know we can all fuck each other over or screw each other over, but let's just all kind of go for the tarp, and then you can betray, and then you're gonna lose some social capital moving forward because these are people you might be in a merged tribe with or a swap tribe with. So you have to think about those relationships down the line. But genuinely take it. Like, if Cindy really wanted the tarp, she should have just said, hey, we should all take the tarp. And so Cindy played it weird in trying to say, you know what, Brad, you take it. And then I'll probably just keep the tarp. And then Tiffany made a really perplexing decision as well in trying to end up protecting instead. And she ended up not stealing a vote. So Brad was the only person who really got it. I think it was a weird play. And I think we didn't get a lot of context from it, and it's kind of jammed in this episode, and the steal vote is essentially gone because Brad got voted off. But it was a little bit strange. I don't know if I really liked how it went down. It was just too similar to the previous risk rewards, and I think the outcome was kind of boring. It was Brad was aggressive, the other two were passive, and that was that. But Brad had to steal a vote. We get more green tribe dynamics where Brad is finding beware advantages left and right. JD's looking for all the different idols on the camp, and JD has a good confessional where he's like, I'm sneaky, Ricard's sneaky, Shan's sneaky. I don't know about Brad and Jeannie, but Brad and Jeannie were the two that ended up finding it. And so this is that same advantage that Xander has, where you have to basically say a phrase and then all together they're activated when it comes to one of those immunity challenges. So we get to the immunity challenge. Brad flubs his line, Xander says his line properly, and but Blue hasn't found their idol, so these two are still SOL essentially, and they're without a vote. And Brad, additional to that, doesn't have a steal a vote capability, and so he went from this overpowered man to somebody without power because of this like extreme disadvantages beware advantage. So the challenge itself was pretty straightforward. It was you have to basically get sandbags. You have to do a swimming component. There was like a rope component, and then you ended up having to throw the sandbags on a balancing platform. The tribes are pretty even. You saw Tiffany really pull it out and get herself in there. Overall, even Effie, I think, had a bit of a slow start for the yellow tribe, but the yellow tribe ended up finding those sandbags pretty quick. And then so really, it was just a matter of the sandbags. You saw Deshawn as the main person for blue. You saw JD start off for green, and JD was trying to do some layup NBA moves and completely flubbed it. And then you saw yellow, you saw Tiffany get one right off the bat, but you saw Xander kind of take control. And so you kind of started to see who were kind of the go-to people who could perform under pressure on each team. And so Deshawn ended up getting it first. No surprise there. Blue still dominant. It was closer to the wire, and Xander was able to pull it off. And so as much as the yellow tribe wanted to get rid of Xander, I think had they had Vochi instead of Xander, they would have lost that challenge. So, hey, Tiffany might be onto something, and keeping Xander there as a challenge, as essentially a challenge beast to help them compete. And Green really just lost it for themselves. And I agree with Brad when it was kind of the post-mortem of that challenge to talk about, you know what, like JD was kind of like guy who put himself out there. He said he can always kind of do the jump shots, and he failed. And simple as that. And we saw this mentality from Brad before when it was Sarah and Shan doing the puzzles. Hey, they failed the puzzle. Let's get rid of one of them. It's a very kind of straightforward approach, but you know, it's a defensible way to kind of go about doing things. We see the Green Tribe dynamics, and this is really a matter of Brad oversharing. Like, it's as simple as that. Here's Brad with Beware Advantage 1, Beware Advantage 2. When these are two activated, like, this is extremely powerful. Presumably he has Genie on his right pocket. They were a big threat. And we didn't see a lot of it, but Shan probably thought quite strategically in siding more with Ricard and JD. Say she votes out JD, then all of a sudden she's stuck in a 2-2 situation. If either that idol is activated or even worse, Brad gets to steal a vote, Shan loses Ricard. She probably feels like she's number 3 under Brad, and it was just a very tenuous situation. Instead of her being number 1 and just cutting Ricard out completely, or not Ricard, cutting Brad out completely. It was the correct move for Shan. And I'm seeing people criticize it. It's like, look, JD lied to you. JD had this idol that he somehow had in his pants, or this an extra vote. But that's essentially powerless. Especially it's powerless when JD physically gave it to Shan. And I think the decision to provide that vote over was probably quite smart by JD. If he wasn't going to use it, if it's basically a target, burn it, get rid of it. we've seen people throw idols, throw advantages away in previous seasons, and that's part of the idea about it. Is you don't want that target on your back. You don't want people to know you have it. If you found it, show it and get rid of it. Then people, it's a way to build trust. And this way, that extra vote stays within them. If there is a try mix up or a merge situation, Shan, JD, and Ricard can start to build something. And you heard a little bit from Ricard, and you could kind of tell Ricard was trying to lean Shan over to the JD side, which is super fascinating because Ricard was the one who was first against JD. So JD's done some good damage control with Ricard, where I really feel like Ricard was the one who essentially saved him this episode. And Brad, for all of his scrambling and everything else, at the end when he was voted out, good old Broccoli Boy, he just said, look, like, I gave it my all. I maybe trusted one too many people. In this case, it was Shan. And again, it's a tribe of 5. You have to think about it as if it is Final 5. Yeah, like when you have these advantages, it's such a big, powerful shift that if you don't have it, you ought to be the target because it puts you a leg up over the other people. And Brad already told one person, he already told Genie, why are you telling a second person? Like, this is the same issue that Xander had that really messed Vochi over too on that yellow tribe. And I'm sure we're going to see some of this on the blue tribe as well. So, yeah, no, it's very unfortunate that Brad left. I really did like Brad as a player. He was somebody who wanted to swing big, play hard. I think he fit really well in this theme of the season, this extremely fast-paced, advantage-heavy season, and I think he could have made a big dent if he continued onwards. I'm curious to see how Genie is going to try to reintegrate. We did see Genie chat a little bit in Tribal Council about how her and Ricardo don't have trust. Again, great position for Shan and JD to be in, to basically be in the middle of two people who dislike each other. You already know who the two targets are going to be next Tribal if it does go to blows again. And so Shan and JD are sitting pretty strategically. I know I talked about contenders in my other video, but I can maybe talk briefly about who I think are playing the best game from a strategic basis, even if the edit doesn't go well for them. I think the blue tribe overall, as long as they don't throw a challenge, are looking great. I imagine someone like Deshawn or Danny are probably in the middle of things. Erica's playing a little bit under the radar, so she could be good too. And like, I think it's just a matter of being in the middle and being good with everybody, especially when you're in a dominant tribe. So when you are with these people later on, you can kind of still bond with them. But don't make any like final 2 deals and betray people either. So the people who are in the middle of that team seem to be okay. Sydney's playing a little bit too sloppy. On yellow, I think they're all playing pretty bad games. We'll see who survives from that tribe. Green, it's Shannon JD. As much as JD has made strategic errors, he's positioning himself well. And Shan's strategy just seems to be the best so far this season in terms of really dividing and conquering within her green tribe. And so with her tight bonds with Ricard and JD, I see her moving forward quite effectively. And she has a good head on her shoulder, so we'll see how she does. And so, yeah, we'll talk more about the contenders in my next video. We'll jump a little bit deeper into the analysis. But that's a wrap for week 3. Looking forward to chatting with you soon. Take care, guys.